Hello and welcome back to Shade Tree Philosophy. I'm Dave, and we're continuing on with our study of the book of Mark in the King James Version in the Gospel of Mark. And rather than recap, because the narrative kind of changes here in chapter 4, we'll go ahead and just start in chapter 4. Today I am using Bible Gateway's King James Version, simply because I can't read the tiny print in the Bible that I have right now. So chapter 4, verse 1, King James Version, Gospel of Mark. And he began again to teach by the seaside, and there was gathered unto him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship, and he sat in the sea, and the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And he taught them many things by parables, and saith unto them his doctrine, Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much root, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And others fell on good ground, and other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased and brought forth some 30, some 60, and some 100. And he saith unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let them hear. What a wonderful parable. If you've had much exposure to the New Testament, you've probably heard this parable before, but it is a great parable to check yourself and where you're at in your life. I have come back to this parable many times when I thought, wow, I'm not sure where I'm at. Well, this will help you, because it's usually one of really basically, three things. Either, your heart is hard and you're not listening. You're emotional and you're not trying to go any further than that. Or, what was the other one? Or you're letting, which will be explained, the thorns are, you're letting things crowd you out, letting certain things crowd out your spiritual life, so that there's no growth. No fruit is produced. And then there's the seed the soil that is good. And the seed that is cast out on that ground produces, what does he say, some 20, 30, even 100-fold? Or is it 30, 60, 100-fold? But anyway, it was 30, 60, 100-fold, that's a pretty good return on just, a kernel falling on good ground. Now, whether that's talking about numbers in the church, which some might think, or whether that's called, whether the words that Jesus was speaking here falling on a heart that is of good soil and willing to accept the doctrines that he's teaching. He says, in the beginning of this, he even points out, he saith unto them in his doctrine. So this was his belief, that this is where many stand. So anyway, he said these parables, and then he said at the end, he said, for those that have ears, let them hear. In other words, he must have known. Why would he say that? To piss people off in the crowd? What does he mean? They might be saying. But he might be saying, look, those of you who get it, get it. And there'll be those who are able to get what the Lord is teaching. There'll be some whose hearts are just not able to. They don't think in such, manner. Their life may not be driven so much by, outside influence as much as they're just kind of driven by their own agendas and purposes. And there's many among us who are that. We have the type A workaholic person who just continually puts all his efforts into his work. And then we have people who obsess on many things in their life. But anyway, let me go on and read what it says next. And when he was alone, and they were about him, the 12 asked of him the parable. And he saith unto them, Unto you is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. But unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear but not understand, lest at any time they should be converted, and their sins should be forgiven them. And he saith unto them, Know ye not this parable? And how then will ye know all parables? The sower soweth the word. And these that are by the wayside, where the word is sown, but when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. So those who are, the pathway, I guess, those that kind of fall on the pathway, the hard ground, the wayside, the edges of the path, I guess. The birds are going to be able to spot that easily and come in and take it out. Well, he's saying here, Satan is who the bird is in this parable, and he's not going to let that sit around very long for those who have a hardness of heart anyway. That's easy pickings. So he's going to come in and clear that out. And these are they likewise, which are sown on stony ground, who when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness. This is stony ground. This is rocky soil. There's rocks and soil mixed together kind of a thing. This even says stony ground, so it's even, not even part of the path. It's just a stony kind of worthless piece of dirt, I guess, because he's saying it's stony ground. But anyway, it falls on this. I'm not saying these people are worthless. I'm just saying this is not high-grade ground. But when the seed falls on this, this is, I guess it finds little places, little niches to fall into. Think about it, when it's stony ground, seed gets blown around, so it finds little niches to fall into, and maybe grows in the cracks of like your sidewalk or whatever. It can spring up, but it's not going to go very far because it's just crowded out by there's just not enough earth on the ground there. There's not enough nutrition and everything. And so when the sun comes out, well, let me go on and say what Jesus says. Next verse 17. And have no root in themselves. Let me go ahead and start with 16. And these that likewise, which are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness. And have no root in themselves, and so endure but a time. Afterward, when affliction or persecution for sake of the word, immediately they fall away. Or it says, immediately they are offended. Okay, so those are the ones who are kind of rocky ground, If they have afflictions, maybe they get sick, maybe they have hard times, maybe they have they lose money, whatever the affliction is. There's many afflictions in the world. Some might, there's argument with their spouse, or, they're tired of fighting with a marriage that's not helping them along. So that might be considered an affliction. So they lose, they become unfruitful, and they're choked out. Anyway, they're withered out by these afflictions and persecution. That just wears them down. They don't have enough in them, I guess, to carry on with the faith and to deal with their place in these afflictions, or it even says persecutions, which, some Christians do get persecuted. We don't in this country, but there might be some slight, persecutions in this country, but nothing like they were dealing with in the first century anyway, and certainly in second century, in some other parts of the world, even today. But anyway, as soon as the persecution arises, or this affliction comes along, and maybe because of the word, immediately they're offended. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go back to whatever things were before. And these are they that are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, the deceitfulness of riches, let me repeat that, and the lusts of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. And that's usually where I end up, you know. I'm not saying searching for riches, but just the day-to-day stuff that comes along that can kind of overwhelm your thoughts and motives, and you get more into worrying about whether you can meet all your expenses and blah, 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 blah. These are the thorns of life that choke it out. Choke out anything the word could do, because you're not even looking at it anymore. Pretty soon, you just have your time whittled away to where there's not much time to really focus in on maybe the things that might, spur on faith and good deeds. You're just looking at, what's going on around you, and maybe not even purposely neglecting the word or purposely neglecting your prayers. It's just these things have possessed you, these concerns, whether it be money or, it can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be money. It could just be, I raise animals. I have goats, and I can become obsessed with them. It's because, I really love them. So it's hard not to become, a little bit carried away with that. And it can take away my willingness to do other things, maybe pay attention to my fellow man, because I just think about those goats all the time. So, but yeah. As a matter of fact, right now I have a little goat that has been sick, and I've been taking care of her for almost a month. And there's times I'm at my wit's end, and I think, oh man, I've neglected, my study time, my spiritual life suffered. And of course, watching her be sick, it's been hard. It's been hard to watch her be sick, because, I pray for her. I'm praying every day. And I believe God's going to do what God's going to do, but it would break my heart to lose her. So anyway, I can obsess. But I can't let those things take away, even if she's taken away from me. Where else am I going to go? Jesus has the words of life. All right, so anyway. But he says, but these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word and receive it. What does it mean? Hear the word and receive it. Have you ever sat in a sermon, and then as soon as you leave the sermon, you forgot what the sermon was about? Even though maybe even you enjoyed the sermon. It's kind of like hearing the word, but did you really receive it? Did it land in your heart, and did it find fertile ground to kind of grow and stick around? Well, yeah. It's a good question to ask yourself. It's a question I ask myself. But such as hear the word and receive it and bring forth fruit. Man. Bring forth fruit. What does a tree live for that is a fruit-bearing tree? That tree lives to bring forth fruit. What is, plants don't have to be persuaded to grow. They have to be, life is that's one of the natures of God is eternal power and divine nature. One of his natures is what we can see in the natural world. And plants are just given to life and to bear fruit. That's what they do. Animals are given to life and to beget other little animals and to bear their fruit. As human beings, we're kind of elevated creatures, and we're to bear fruit. But in this case, it's not bringing home a big check. It's not bringing home the most beautiful goat. It's not those things. It's not writing the perfect song. Another thing I do is I'm a musician. It's none of those things. What it is trying to, bear fruit, trying to become like our Creator, to be conformed to the likeness of Jesus. And so we have to be willing to cast off concerns that are not worthy of our attention. We need to cast off things that might draw us away from wanting to be fertile ground where God's word could take root and grow. All right, then he goes on, verse 21, and he saith unto them, there is a candle brought to be put, and he saith unto them, is a candle brought to be put under a bushel or under a bed, and not to be set on a candlestick? For there is nothing hid that shall not be manifested, neither was there anything kept secret, but it should become abroad. If any man's ears to hear, let him hear. So, again, Jesus is talking in a parable here. He's saying, just with what he said about bearing fruit, he's saying, okay, now look, is a candle is to be brought out to be hidden under a bushel? No, a candle is there to give light, so you put it on a stand so that it gives light to everybody. Well, that's kind of where we should be. I'm not saying we should be some militant church, but I'm saying we should be good examples to those who are around us. And sometimes that means being just good examples to those who are around us, not being mouthy about what we think of what they're doing wrong or whatever, because, man, people hear enough of that in this day and age, especially. But they should be able to hear a different message from us. And it should be a message that's not necessarily with words, but with good behaviors. Don't want to say that. Sometimes people take that the wrong way. So just living in a way that's pleasing to the Lord. We'll take the behaviors idea out of there. But living in a way that is pleasing to the Lord is what we should be trying to do. All right. But he's saying, look, I guess here in this one line, for there is nothing hid that shall not be manifested, neither was there anything kept secret that should not come abroad. I'm not sure I understand all that, but I know that he's saying that the truth will be made known. That's what it seems like to me. In people's lives, and the truth will be manifested by what they do. And he saith unto them, I'm in verse 24, and he saith unto them, take heed that ye hear with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you, and unto you that hear shall be more be given. For he that hath, to him shall be given, and he that hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he hath. So he's saying, be aware of your talents and be aware of maybe what you're doing with them. Man, that's very convicting for a Christian at any point in their life. This sounds to me like he's saying, take heed what ye hear, and what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you. And unto you that hear shall be more be given. So to me it sounds like he's saying, take inventory. And then he goes on to say, for you that have fruits, more will be given. But you that have no fruit, what's to be given you? Maybe even that which you have will end up being taken away. Here he's saying it will be taken away.